Human genetic memory theory. This theory can explain why we behave the way we are. I have found there are many racial behavioral differences. For example, Westerners would consider economics as the most important factor in joining or separating a country. However, Easterners would consider ranking improvement, that is not to be ruled by some higher authority, but they want to rule other people, is the most important factor. The racial behavioral difference can be compared to a German Shepherd dog who will instinctively bark at a stranger, while a small Peking dog will instinctively wag its tail. I want to figure out the root cause of these racial behavioral differences. I have concluded if humans also have instincts just like animals do, we can explain the root cause of human racial behavioral differences. After all, humans are animals too. Whatever rules can be applied to animals should also be feasible for humans. First of all, I want to define what instincts are. We know animals have instincts. For example, a young cat will learn how to effectively catch mice after merely a few attempts as a survival requirement. But what exactly is instinct? I deem that instinct is merely memory transmitted genetically from one generation to the next in the form of old experience. Instinct is genetic memory passed down. This is a logical deduction. A young cat has the genetic memory of mice catching but has no instinct in circus tricks is because its ancestors have no experience in circus tricks. At present, we do not know how this is done. Nature has many secrets that are still unknown to us. After all, we still do not know how our memory is recorded. But humans are animals too. Therefore, humans should also have genetic behaviors, just like animals do. Two rules govern human genetic behaviors. Rule 1. Our ancestors' experiences and skills are transmitted to us genetically, just like the cat's instinct to help it to learn mice catching quickly. I call this phenomenon as human genetic behaviors. Rule 2. Humans are intelligent animals. If a certain human genetic behavior does not accommodate the present environment, humans can adjust that behavior quickly. Animals cannot. The reason why we have the first rule is that humans are animals too. Whatever rules can be applied to animals should also be feasible for humans. Humans should have genetic behaviors, just like animals have instinct. The reason why we have a second rule is that humans are intelligent animals. If a certain genetic behavior does not fit well in the present environment, humans can adjust that behavior quickly. Animals are unable to do so. Because humans can make behavioral adjustments is probably why people have not noticed humans also have genetic behaviors. By comparing our brain to a computer, it seems as if our brain is not a new computer that warrants all sorts of programs for installation. Rather, it is an old computer that has all sorts of old programming already installed. Our behaviors act according to these old programs. If we want to change a certain genetic behavior, we need an update for that program. Of course, if a program remains unused for a long time, we must engage in a few practices to eliminate the rust. If people truly have genetic behaviors, then we can explain many racial behavioral differences by investigating each race's genetic backgrounds. For example, why can Westerners maintain a truly democratic society while non-Westerners have all failed? Using these two rules is like applying Newton's two laws of mechanism to construct buildings safely. To find the answer to why Westerners can maintain a truly democratic society while all others have failed, we must reflect upon how human ancestors lived during ancient times. Humans are group-oriented animals. To make the group successful, each member needs to contribute to the group and does nothing that will harm the group. In the early days of mankind's group living, two methods were established to achieve this goal. 1. A controlling governance system. People call it authoritarianism, was formulated to ensure each member made his or her fair share of contribution to the group and did not harm the group. 2. A self-disciplined governance system, people call it democracy, was devised that each member voluntarily made his or her fair contribution to the group and did no harm to the group. It depended on the environment where ancient people lived that established people to choose which government system was more suitable. In the desert environment of the Middle East and northern China, Gobi Desert where the Yellow River passes through, people choose the controlling governance system. In the cold weather environment of Northwest Europe, people selected the self-disciplined governance system. The rationale is pretty obvious. In ancient times, the desert environment required people to determine a skilled leader to guide the group to hunt in the desert. Any mistake, such as missing a water hole, could mean death for the group. By watching the sun, moon, and stars, the leader knew exactly where the water holes were located and where to hunt for animals. Members needed to learn this skill from the bottom. Therefore, a ranking system was created. Members with sophisticated skills were higher in the ranking and could give orders to members of lower ranking or punishments for making mistakes. In a way, it was similar to the ranking system in Chinese Kung Fu Club. Group members were very loyal to the group and respected the group leader's skills, because without the group, they could not survive. In this manner, the controlling governance system, authoritarianism, originated. The desert people were used to this controlling governance environment for more than 6,000 years. Unfortunately, when the controlling power is relaxed in the present environment, they may get into trouble. We will touch more on this feature when we talk about the desert people's desire to adapt to a democratic society. In ancient times, in the cold weather environment of Northwest Europe, people were facing a common enemy, the cold weather, because it could kill. The cold blizzard suddenly arrived. Any unlucky person who was unable to return to a shelter could face death. Therefore, to maintain the population, people regarded life as extremely precious. They did all they could to preserve it. Considering life as precious probably influenced many proactive behaviors such as social justice, fairness to reduce disputes, foster peace, etc. People needed to form groups for hunting. However, nobody could claim that he or she could deal with the cold weather enemy better than any others. In turn, each member of the group was considered equal. The group needed to create a governance system to operate effectively. They selected a member as the leader. If his or her performance failed to meet the expectations, members could select another person as a leader. Because everyone was considered equal, each member's personal preferences were highly respected, as long as the performance of the entire group was not impacted. That was how democracy and human rights likely originated. Food was not a problem after humans invented hunting tools. The way they hunt was similar to Westerners engaging in rodeos currently. Members must be brave. Each member must act unselfishly. Otherwise, others would not be willing to form a group with him or her. That was the only way people could deal with a selfish member because each member was considered to be equal. When everyone was considered to be equal, no one had the authority to discipline others. Therefore, democracy is a self-disciplined governance system. One needs to be self-disciplined to only do things that are beneficial to the group. The selfish member could not survive by himself in the cold environment. Gradually, those selfish persons were eliminated, or the more intelligent ones were able to adjust their behaviors. In essence, the remaining members were very self-disciplined. So Westerners today are more self-disciplined than other races. I will give some examples later on. How did ancient people hunt? When a bull tries to attack a hunter, the bull's head is down. At this moment, the hunter quickly leans forward to place his body between the bull's horns. He will hang onto the bull's head by holding the bull's neck with his arms across the neck. The bull will try to throw him off. At this moment, two more hunters will quickly try to break the bull's legs with stone axes. Heavier men would be better skilled in this situation. The hunter would also have a piece of old bull skin to protect him. The longer the hunter can hang onto the bull, the better the chances of a successful hunt. This, in a way, is like Westerners playing rodeo today. That is why Westerners enjoy rodeos. Likewise, blacks and Southeast Asians' ancestors lived in the hot settings of Africa and Southeast Asia. Here, people did not need to compete with nature. People could survive by hunting and gathering in a resource-rich environment. Because of this condition, the area became overcrowded. Individual or small group fighting to compete for resources became common. Here, basically individuals or small family groups survived by themselves. They did not need to form larger groups. Later, about 5,000 years ago or even earlier, the desert people started to migrate to other parts of the world. They had the advantage of a group fighting force. They drove away local people consisting of smaller groups, but they still kept their preferred governance system. The desert people from northern China, Gobi Desert where the Yellow River passes through, started to move out. They migrated to China, Korea, Japan, Mongolia, Vietnam, Northern Europe. Russia and Northern Europe were conquered by Mongols in history. The desert people from the Sahara Desert migrated to the Middle East, Spain, Portugal, Turkey, Greece, Italy, the Indian subcontinent, and as far east as Southeast Asian countries like Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and Cambodia. These places all have controlling governance systems, authoritarianism. The cold weather people's migration took place much later, in the 15th and 16th centuries, after the invention of gunpowder. So we have the self-disciplined democracy governance system countries in Northwest Europe, North America, Australia, and New Zealand. In history, the controlling governance system was more successful. China and Egypt have 5,000 years of history, while countries of Western Europe have only a few hundred years of history. Westerners were emulating the desert people's governance system at first because they were more successful. Westerners copied the Greek monarch governance system so that they could build countries. They also adapted to Christian religion because its teachings were close to their genetic thinking. As Westerners became more successful in the 1600s and 1700s, they transitioned to the democratic system. Those ancient experiences and skills can be passed down from generation to generation to our modern people. All in all, there are many instinctive racial behavioral differences between the desert people, hot weather people, and the cold weather people. Now I want to address the issue of why Westerners can maintain a truly democratic society while non-Westerners have all failed. One critical factor is non-Westerners do not have a high level of self-discipline skills needed in a democratic society. In a democratic society, you are the boss. But for democracy to work, you must have the self-discipline to only do things that are beneficial to society. Without that, people turn to do what they like. People only care of their own interest. The economics of the country becomes ruined. This repeatedly happened to so many countries seeking democracy. Egypt has 5,000 years of history. After Egypt adopted to democracy during the Arab Spring, the country turns into chaos. Government officials become corrupted, gangsters everywhere. Even tourists need policemen to stand by for protection. Another recent example is Ukraine. It becomes the poorest country in Eastern Europe. Before that, Ukraine was a rich country.
Russia has large amount of cheap energy. Ukraine has highly educated manpower. If they cooperate with each other, both parties will benefit. But this does not happen. The reason is because Easterners have this not to be ruled by other people genetic memory. All the neighboring countries of Russia are unfriendly to Russia. This also happens to the youths of Taiwan and Hong Kong towards China. Westerners' genetic memory is economics is the most important factor. Germany benefits from Russia's cheap energy.
I can give an example of the self-discipline level difference between Westerners and non-Westerners. Movie copyright infringement is a serious matter in the movie industry. After the introduction of DVDs, people in Asian countries did not go to movie theaters anymore. They just watched pirated DVD movies at home, causing the local movie industry to suffer greatly. A large number of movie producers and movie theaters became bankrupt. This is because the enforcement of copyright law is weak or hard to enforce, but this does not happen in Western countries because people have self-discipline. They do not watch the pirate DVD movies. They are willing to pay for watching movies. On the other extreme, the lockdown in the fighting against COVID-19 pandemic requires very strict control to be applied. Chinese can endure strict control. That is why the Chinese can successfully use lockdowns to defeat the COVID-19 pandemic, while Westerners failed the lockdown. Westerners are not used to this type of tight control. They want self-determination. This shows the racial behavioral differences between Westerners and Easterners
are caused by human genetic behaviors. There are many racial behavioral differences caused by human genetic behaviors.
I have listed them below. 1. Black youths are reported to exhibit violent tendencies. The number of black youths involved in violence is disproportionate to their population, especially in fatal shooting cases. Both the victims and the shooters are mostly black youths. Why does this happen to the black race? As mentioned above, the ancestors of black youths lived in a hot environment that was overcrowded. Therefore, the individual or small group fighting to compete for resources became common. This shows black youth violence is caused by their ancestors' environmental experiences genetically passed down to them.
If we can let them know that they have this violent genetic behavior that is unfit in the present environment, a lot of life can be saved.
2. The abortion issue is mainly concerned with Westerners, both in the pro- and anti-abortion groups. Non-Westerners seldom see this as an issue. As mentioned above, Westerners' ancestors lived in a cold environment where life was considered to be very precious, because the cold weather could kill. Therefore, they needed to preserve life all they could. But the environment has changed. In today's situation, it brings hardship to force a woman to raise an unwanted child.
Therefore, we have the pro-abortion group were Westerners who have undertaken an adjustment to their genetic behavior, and the anti-abortion group were Westerners who have not yet.
This does show the abortion issue among Westerners is caused by their ancestors' experience genetically passed down to them. This also explains why other races do not see abortion as an issue. 3. Everyone considers one's life as the most important thing, yet Arabic youths and young people can perform suicide bombing.
I can explain this from a genetic behavior point of view.
Arabic people's ancestors lived in the desert environment where water was very scarce. People formed groups for hunting. If the group's water storage was diminished in the middle of the desert, the whole group would face death. In the desert environment, group fighting was common for scarce resources. Some loyal group member of a certain group might consider self-sacrifice for the good of the group. So he or she stealthily, by the cover of night, destroyed the enemy group's water storage. Of course, he or she would be killed by the other group by doing so. This experience can be genetically passed down to our modern Arabic people. This is my explanation for why Arabic youths and young people can do suicide bombing.
This shows their action is a genetic behavior.
4. U.S. consists of 50 constituent entities. Before 1776, they were all separate entities. At that time, people could see that if all the entities could join together and become a large union, every entity would be benefited economically. So they willingly joined together and became the United States. After that, the United States improved tremendously both economically and politically that the U.S. became the most powerful country on earth. On the other hand, in the Middle East, in Libya, and Samaria, the country is divided into many small entities that each entity acts like a country of its own. They are fighting with each other. This tension causes great suffering to the people. A large number of refugees rush to Europe.
Why is there such a profound difference? The disparity is caused by people's diversity in genetic behaviors. Westerners genetically consider economics as the most important factor in joining or separating a country. However, the desert people genetically consider ranking improvement when separating from a country.
As mentioned above, ranking was established in the desert people in ancient times. All the time people wanted to improve their ranking stand. They wanted to be on the top. This desire can be passed down genetically. If a portion of the country can separate from the larger country, people of that portion will improve their ranking by getting rid of higher-ranking people on the top. Therefore, desert people countries can only be divided into smaller ones until there is a war where the stronger entity conquers the smaller ones. This shows the difference between Westerners and Easterners in the different way of separating and joining of a country as a genetic factor.
People of Libya are desert people. They are used to accept order from higher authority. Previously, it was Gaddafi giving the order. He organized everyone to work for the good of the country. You may call him a dictator, but this how authoritarianism works. When he was removed, no one can be the higher authority to give order to the Libya people. The country divided into small groups, and the country is ruined. This also happened to Saddam Hussein of Iraq. Decision time. Is human genetic memory really exists among people? People can consider the above facts when considering if this theory will likely to be true. Just do a good observation if human genetic behaviors among races exist. After viewing many cases of human genetic behaviors from above, or from your own experience, is the human mind full of experiences from our ancestors? People can make a logical decision. As to me, after viewing all the facts, I strongly consider human genetic memory do exist. This theory cannot physically verify if it is true or not. This is because we still do not know how our memory is recorded. Through observation, we say the cat has instincts. We can do the same thing with human genetic memory. So your observation can be used to determine if human genetic memory really exists. I hope some university can do a survey to see if human genetic memory is recognized among people. I have searched many human memory can be passed down to next-generation websites, but none of them are sure memory can be passed down to the next generation until they can find memory in the human DNA. When we say animals have instincts, that is equivalent to say memories have passed due to the next generations in animals, because instincts are passed down memories. I want to stress that we must treat animals and humans the same manner, because humans are animals too. When we work with animals, we did not ask for where the animal memory is recorded in the animal DNA. When we work with humans, why should we ask, where are the human memories recorded in the human DNA? Nature has many secrets which we still have not uncovered. I believe memory may be stored in some unknown field form. That is why memory is found all over our body, including the sperm and the egg, which are far away from the brain. From observation, we have concluded animals have instincts. We can apply the same rule to humans. That is to say, humans must also have passed down genetic memories. I try to figure out what happens to human behaviors when genetic memories are applied to humans. The above examples of human behaviors are my observation after genetic memories are applied to humans. They match the reality of the real world. People can do their own observation and come up with their observation conclusion. People also can comment on my above observation conclusion. They are very welcome. Next, I try to prove human genetic memory do exist in humans. We believe animals have instincts. Instincts are just genetic memories passed down to the next generation. When applying instincts to animals, a German Shepherd dog would bark at a stranger, while a small Peking dog would wag its tail. These are their instincts. But humans are animals too. Therefore, humans should also have instincts bracket genetic memory. In applying genetic memory in humans, in the issue of joining and separating of a country, Westerners would consider economics as the most important factor. Easterners would consider not to be ruled by some higher authority as the most important factor. This racial behavioral difference can sometimes cause problem. My theory is the only theory that I can use it to prove that humans have genetic memories.
I know some youths from Hong Kong and Taiwan do not want to be ruled by China. Humans are intelligent animals. Humans can adjust their passed down genetic memory to fit the new environment. The correct way for our Hong Kong and Taiwan youths to do is to carefully investigate the situation. If they have done that, they will find. Among other benefits, China is now moving from a labor-intensive manufacturing system to a knowledge-intensive manufacturing system. China is looking for a large amount of educated people, so it is much easier to find good jobs in China. Unfortunately, that does not happen. Our Hong Kong youths follow the urge from their genetic memory that they went out to destroy public properties during the 2019 youth riot.